My name is Jenkins and I'm a proud Latina role model. Please, embrace your uniqueness, be gracious, and everything that you do it with courage. You are great and you will do great things.
I'm Attorney Yara Rodriguez. I am very proud to be a Latina role model. And for you, my message is never quit, keep at it, and work 24/7 for whatever dream you have, because your dream will become a reality.
This show is brought to you by Boricua Beer, coming to your local retailer in September.
Hello, welcome to another edition of EduTV. I'm your host, Greg Perkins, and today's guest is Dr. Barbara Jenkins, Superintendent of Orange County Public Schools. Welcome. Glad you could join us again.
Thank you, Greg. Happy to be here.
Okay. You are doing some great things. Every time I think you can't do any better, something else comes up. So I'd like to start with, I know y'all won the Broad, and I think there are a lot of things in there that we can talk about, and then we'll just sort of talk about where we are with education, all the teachers prepared, you got the new school year coming up. So tell us about the Broad, tell us about some of the things that are going on in the district.
Okay, I'm very happy to talk about the Broad Prize. So the Eli and Edith Broad Foundation every year takes a look at urban school districts across the nation and compare their outcomes with the rest of their peers to determine who's done the best job or better job of both narrowing achievement gaps and improving achievement for all of their students. When I say narrowing achievement gaps, that really in essence means when you look at your minority population, different racial and ethnic groups, as well as those students that are on free and reduced lunch, are they achieving closer to their peers that are of white race and non-free and reduced lunch? And so Broad looks at all that information, they narrow it down to some finalists, and then they send out a site team to come and spend about a week in your district to look at some of your practices that have produced these results. And then they make a determination, and last September they actually made the announcement that we were winners, co-winners actually with Gwinnett County just outside of Atlanta for the Broad Prize. Best thing about it, I think two things are really important about that prize. Number one, it sends an indication to our community that Orange County Public Schools is doing a very good job, not just with their students overall, but specifically with some of their historically underserved populations. So that's good news for this community. I think secondly, it also commends our entire community because they supported us when the economy was faltering and budgets were being cut. Our community supported us with an additional mill property tax to help keep us flush with our resources for our students. So it's really a commendation to our entire community.
And that takes a good working relationship with city officials, county officials, and the voters.
The voters were critical to that success, and we're very grateful for that. They've always come out time and time again to support us. The 1/2 penny sales tax that was renewed as well is indication they want our schools to be beautiful and attractive for our students, as well as technologically sound with the latest technology for our children as well. So this community should celebrate that Broad Prize. It's an indication that what they have supported has made our children successful. So we're very pleased with that. I like to be clear too, Greg. I don't want to indicate that means all of our achievement gaps are closed. They are narrowing, but we certainly have lots of work left to be done here around those areas as well. Here's the best part about the Broad Prize. It comes with $1.5 million in scholarships for our students. Would have been $1 million, but we split with Gwinnett County, so we get $500,000 each. And so our seniors that just graduated, 31 of them received those scholarships, $20,000 scholarships if they were going to a 4-year college.
Is that $5,000?
$5,000 each year for 4 years. $5,000 if you're going to a 2-year college, $2,500 for each year to cover your expenses. And I will tell you, the Broad Foundation is all about those students who have made progress and increase their success during their high school career. So unlike other scholarships, they don't look for students with the highest GPA or students who have the highest test scores. They want to look historically 9th through 12th grade, which students showed the most improvement and steady improvement and sustained improvement as well. So 31 of our children got those scholarships from the Broad Foundation. Yes. Very proud. I know those families are quite grateful as well.
No, you guys are doing a lot of great things. You're to be commended. The facilities, when I go on school campuses, I'm like, man, these things are great. They're like small college campuses. And speaking of which, doing a lot of things to help close the achievement gap. I was at a conference yesterday, and in your minority achievement office, y'all have the Calculus or Algebra 1 initiative. Tell me what that is and what's the goal and purpose of that.
In Orange County, for the last 2 years, this has just completed our second year of working on an initiative. We specifically started focusing on achievement gaps in some of our minority populations, how we could better serve them. And so I established a minority achievement office. I have a couple of managers, very experienced, former area superintendent Dr. James Lawson heads that up, and they specifically are looking for different initiatives that have proven to be successful in other districts, nationwide search that they've done, to look at how we can implement those for our children as well. Now I will tell you, it's Minority Achievement Office, so we're looking at all of our minority groups, but we know those two groups that need the greatest attention are both our Hispanic and our Black males. When I say Black males, that includes African American and Haitian Creole. Mm-hmm. So a large focus is around minority males because that's where our greatest needs are, if you look at our data.
Did you receive any pushback from that, saying you're singling out a particular group of students?
Absolutely not.
Okay,
that's
great.
a great question though, Greg. Let me speak to that. I spoke with my board members individually, and then we had a discussion because we looked at the data. And if you look at the data, and it clearly shows that your Black males are at the bottom when it comes to student achievement, and your Hispanic males are next to the bottom, that gives clear indication. If you don't focus on where you know your greatest needs are, then clearly you're not going to see progress in those areas. And so the numbers really speak for themselves. You don't have to make the case, you just show the data. And clearly that was an area that we needed some additional focus on. And so under Dr. Lawson's leadership and with our board's approval, our board was gung-ho behind it. In fact, they said we ought to embed these strategies in our overall strategic plan to make sure that they are historically kept in place for this district. And so we have different projects coming into place, and if you focus on trying to help some of those minority populations, you're going to help your overall population as well. And so the Calculus project is around pushing young people that are just on the brink of being motivated enough to do it on their own, but maybe need a little encouragement, into higher levels of math, so that before they leave high school, before they graduate, they're actually taking calculus. That's why it's called the Calculus project.
Okay.
But that means you've got to push them into Algebra 1 in middle school. And then you keep them in that trajectory until they're ready for calculus before they leave high school. Need some support, you need some additional tutoring, you need encouragement and mentoring, because it's pretty, I would say it's intimidating for some of our young people, particularly if they don't come from a background or a home that's been very successful in those areas in the past, or where potentially parents have not gone to college. The student might be intimidated, so we've got to encourage them and keep them going along that very positive trajectory. We have more chess clubs, more debate clubs. We are pushing SMART is cool.
Good.
Because in many of our communities, SMART was considered nerdy and unpopular. We want our children to see SMART as cool, SMART as popular again. That is what we're determined to push, and particularly with our males, because they need that extra encouragement. It's much easier to be popular with your peers if you're not making straight A's.
Right.
And we want to say, we've got posters, we're going to keep pushing it.
That, right.
SMART is, we don't use this term, but SMART is popular, SMART is cool, SMART is sexy. Whatever it takes, we've got to help our young men especially to get on board with being smart. Not only is it important, it is critical to your future. And here's a really important part. Smart is not something you're born with. It's not something you just are. Smart is something you can become.
I believe that,
if
Dr.
you work
Jenkins,
hard.
Yes, I read a book called Talent is Overrated, one of the best books I've ever read, and it talks about deliberate practice. Constantly doing something, and each time you get it wrong, you tweak it in order to get it right so that you become better at it. Now, and I like that, because encouraging those higher math classes can lead to opportunities in STEM. And I like the fact that you're saying making smart is cool. When I was at Florida A&M University, I remember Dr. Humphreys, he would go out and recruit academic kids the same way you would recruit athletes. So you all are to be commended for that. Now, at what age do you all begin to identify the kids to participate in the calculus project?
Calculus project starts in middle school, but in elementary school we are pushing academics just as well, and rigor for our young people. For example, we knew that we were potentially under-identifying children that needed to be served by gifted services, meaning that they have a higher aptitude. So not only is SMART something that you can work hard to become, we wanted to be better at identifying some children that were talented because we felt like we were under-identifying them. And so we do a screening in second grade. Doesn't mean it's the only time and the only chance that you get, but an overall screening of all of our second graders to see who potentially might need to be in the gifted program. And then by that we are identifying more children that need to be further screened, and then more children of underserved populations.
So once you screen and say, hey, look, little Johnny here has scored, and then you call the parents and say, hey, look, this kid can probably do exceptional things. Let us help you guide him sort of with his academic path.
Absolutely, and the pathway is really, if you go through that second grade screening, then you do a secondary screening actually by state regulations to be gifted and to be staffed into a gifted program where you're getting services from a teacher that will continue to push and challenge you. But that doesn't matter. Even if you're not in a gifted program, we're going to push the rigor for all of our students and encourage our children. SMART is something you become. If you work hard, you can achieve your goals, and that's our strategy.
Now, how do you all translate that term rigor to parents? Because a lot of things have changed since I've been in school, since you've been in school. And so you and I may understand that term, but are we getting the word out to parents about the challenges and how the students need to study a lot harder, a lot smarter now? So how do you all get that message to parents about the term rigor?
When we consider our AP courses, which by the way is one of the ways that we excelled in that Broad study that was conducted in our district, pushing more and more children into advanced placement courses is critical. That's a part of our rigor when they get to high school. And so we look at data, their PSAT scores say that they ought to be successful in a higher level class, then we staff them into the class. We don't ask for, we don't get a parent permission or a teacher recommendation, we staff them in, and then we'll work with the parents and the students and tutoring to help them be successful. That's really critical, and I think we started to convey that to all of our parents. With the new standards, every student has to work harder to be successful.
And I'm a firm believer. I've seen it with my own eyes. My daughter was an AP at a high school here in Orlando. When I sat in on that parent conference, I felt like I was talking to a college professor.
They're college courses.
She was required to read a book a month and do specific types of writing. I was like, whoa.
Got to get them ready to compete.
Well, you guys are certainly doing a great job of that.
College courses in high school.
That is so awesome. Accountability, we have some things coming up. Okay, next segment. Folks, stay tuned for our next segment. We're going to talk about some accountability measures, and stay tuned for our next segment.
This show is brought to you by Boricua Beer, coming to your local retailer in September.
I am for the child who's had 7 addresses in a single year because she's in foster care, because her father abused her. And her mother couldn't believe her. She is the child I am for. I am a volunteer child advocate. I am you.
Florida residents call toll-free 866-341-1425.
Welcome back. Greg Perkins, EduTV, and one of the best superintendents, I think, in the United States, Dr. Barbara Jenkins. We talked about a lot of good things that were going on for kids. We talked about the Minority Achievement Office, talked about some great things that were going on there. Now, I know that you guys were taking a look at some technology initiatives in the digital classroom. Tell me about it. What is it? How does it work?
We went through a pilot the last 2 years looking at a couple of schools at elementary, a couple middle schools, and a high school where the students dealt with an entire digital curriculum. That means they had no textbooks. Each student had a laptop that gave them all of their curriculum that they would need to make use of, as well as the ability to turn in homework assignments and do projects on their own laptops. Digital curriculum, we were very pleased with. We ran it as a pilot, Greg, because we wanted to make sure we found out where the problems might crop up, that we would have some indication of which laptops, what technology was going to be best for our students. and then even be able to look at some of the curriculum materials that might be most useful. So we ran it for 2 years, ready now to escalate that to include more schools. Critical to that process was the extension of our half-penny sales tax. This community, in its generosity again, by overwhelming numbers, agreed to extend for another 10 years that half-penny sales tax. That not only builds the beautiful new schools that you see renovated in all of our communities, it will complete those renovations, but it will also provide digital curriculum for all of our students. So over the next several years, we will come to a place where all of our schools have a one-to-one ratio and every student has a laptop computer.
How was that received by the teachers? Because a lot of times people say teachers are resistant to change. I disagree with that, especially with the newer crop of teachers that are coming out that are accustomed to using technology to teach. So y'all trained the teachers well, got the teacher buy-in?
I will tell you, certainly it was intimidating for some of our teachers. Those teachers that are just coming out of school potentially have more exposure to it, and they come from a generation that just lives in the digital environment. But I will tell you, we have veteran teachers that have done a phenomenal job that can help train and prepare other teachers as well. Professional development was critical, lots of training, not just before they started that 2 years ago. Over the summer they had lots of training, but training to continue throughout the school year is critical for our teachers. And to be honest with you, our children are such digital natives, quite often they are able to fix a glitch or help out in the classrooms as well. Our high school was Ocoee High School. They developed I want to say they call it an Apple bar, but they developed a help desk of students who could help with glitches and help students when they might be experiencing problems as well. So we've got a generation, they are ready for it. It's our responsibility to make sure our teachers are trained and prepared to go forward with it. So I'm very excited. Next year, this coming school year, we're going to expand to about a dozen additional high schools, and then the following year, all of our high schools will be totally digital for our students, and then we'll grow from there until every school is covered.
Now, does that provide a savings for the district now that the information becomes electronic? Because I know I look at some of these textbooks, and those things look pretty expensive. Are the companies working with the school districts to say, you know, we're going to give you a break on the price, which they probably aren't?
So again, that would be a pretty rational thing to assume. That's not the way it goes, because if I am the textbook company and I'm going to go digital now, I can't have my bottom line suffer, because then, you know, all of my shareholders would be a little upset with me. So quite frankly, what used to be sometimes given as a free addendum to your textbook purchases, if that becomes your main curriculum, then it's going to be probably just about as costly as the textbooks.
Okay.
We think over time, because you can upgrade without throwing out old textbooks and buying new ones, that there may be some savings, but a lot of that we would be at the mercy of the publishers, and I don't think publishers will intentionally cut their profits because they're going digital instead of hard copy.
But it's good for the kids, because now you have all your books in one place, and you don't have to worry about the inventory cost as much. So there would be some savings in terms of...
I will tell you, what we've heard from our students is, I feel more organized, I have all of my information at my fingertips, I get my things turned in on time, I can email my teacher if I've got a question on the homework, back and forth. All of that connectivity for our young people is just critical, and they're quite encouraged by it. Our research also shows, our pilot projects show there are decreases both in discipline concerns in schools, better attendance as well, and then we've had some better outcomes for our students. Now I want to be clear, giving a child a laptop does not all of a sudden make them an A student. You still got to have very quality instruction. That laptop is simply a tool for our teachers. Still have to have quality, good instruction and interaction, and parental involvement and support as well to help our children be successful.
Now, does the district provide that laptop to each student?
Yes.
Now, what about
the district, thanks to our taxpayers and that half-penny sales tax.
Okay. What about students who may not have the internet connectivity at home? What are the choices for them?
So there are two things. Number one, quite often what they've loaded on their computer while they're at school will allow them to do their homework at home without needing access immediately. Every project does not require internet access. If it does require internet access, then we have hotspots all around the city that students, quite frankly, can take advantage of. Every public library, and in some of our schools where we know we have populations that may not have that connectivity at home, they can stay late in the library at the school to get their work done as well. We are very hopeful that sometime in the future we'll have partnerships that provide Wi-Fi access throughout the community.
Well, that is absolutely great. Accountability. we're giving the kids the rigor, we're training the teachers, and it still seems that up in Tallahassee that they're, still causing some headaches, but they seem to be a little more open-minded now to listening to what the districts are saying. So tell us about that, where we're at with the accountability system.
We have seen progress. First of all, Superintendents Association, Teachers Associations, parent groups, so many made their voices heard in Tallahassee over the last several months, concerns around testing. I think it's important that we separate the issue, though. We do not at all take issue with accountability, that our teachers and students need to be able to produce evidence that they have learned what they are supposed to learn. So accountability is not the issue at all. Our teachers are more than willing to prove that their students are learning. What we took issue with was the severity of the changes. They happened so frequently and over such a short period of time, we thought it was not reasonable. More importantly, we also thought to try to issue grades and consequences after a first year of implementing a new test was not realistic and certainly not, in our opinion, the wisest route to take. So we asked the state to make the first year a baseline year without the consequences. Consequences were done away with, most of the negative consequences, but a few things were still in place, such as they still want to issue grades based on last year's testing just completed. We think that's faulty. We think by default almost, the state has made it a baseline year because there were so many glitches in that testing. And so here is where, thanks to our legislature, here's where we ended up. There has to be a validity study. It's being conducted as we speak that determines whether or not the tests were appropriate for the new curriculum, the new standards that we have in place, and whether or not the administration was reasonable. And all of that has to be determined before there are any school grades issued.
Now, a lot of the testing takes place online. Is that across all grade levels, or there's still some paper tests?
Still some paper tests in the earlier grades to start with, and when we do our local exams, those are paper as well. Eventually, the state testing will all be online, and so that's another reason why it's critical. Our children have to function daily in that environment in which they will be assessed.
Are they providing additional financial support to help with the infrastructure to make sure that there's enough bandwidth, there are enough computers in the school?
The state does. The budget did provide additional dollars for technology, Greg. It was not near enough for what we actually need for our children, and so thanks to our taxpayers, our children won't suffer, but statewide the funding cannot cover the cost to try to get all of our children prepared for a digital curriculum.
It's like they make the decisions up here and then they hand it down to you guys and say, here, fix it. But you guys are doing a great job in Orange County.
And I have to say, our legislature and our local delegation especially listened to our concerns, and we're pleased that we've had some correction to our path.
Mm-hmm. As we were walking in, we were talking about parents helping the kids, and every time I go out to a conference or I network with someone, I see all the wonderful programs that are available. And it frustrates me, Dr. Jenkins, that when I hear people complain, I'm like, no, there's a program for that. How can schools, and maybe you guys are already doing this, it just seems that a lot of people, they just don't know that things exist. So what can schools do to bridge that gap between parental communication and the wonderful programs that schools offer?
One of our 5 goals in our strategic plan is to sustain community engagement. If we're going to have sustained engagement from our parents and our community at large, we have to communicate. And while we think we've done a good job, there's always room for improvement. We're going to continue to improve in that area. I will tell you, 3 years ago, we never would have been as concerned about social media as being a major, if not the main, avenue for communicating with parents and families in the community. We have grown that area significantly because that is where people get their news, it's where they listen, it's where they tune in more frequently than not. And so a couple of years ago, we would use Connect Orange, pick up your telephone, you hear a recorded message.
Right.
Today, you better put something out, you better tweet it, you better put it on your Facebook page, you better put it on a blog. You've got to reach people where they live, and by any means necessary, by absolutely every opportunity and avenue that we have, we've got to do our very best at communicating to the public. encourage parents at the same time, stay in touch with your school, read the newsletters when they come out, certainly listen to those recorded messages when they come out, and come to school events so that you interact with your teacher, your child's teacher, and with the administration. That's the best thing you can do to be a good partner for your child's success.
Yeah, because I saw some kids the other day. I was at a school and I said, well, what are you guys taking? They said, we're taking Algebra 1. But at the same time, one of my friends, his kid is going into the 9th grade. And I'm like, I don't think my friend knew that this was available. So some onus has to be on the parents as well to read those things when they come out. Maybe I'm an education nerd, so I read them all the time.
I appreciate you reading them all, Greg. So one, there would be information that goes home that parents can read. If we know that a child is at a stage where they need to be taking Algebra 1, more than likely the counselor has made an extra effort as well to make sure they get into those courses. And so another child that may not have been aware of it could have taken Algebra 1 in 8th grade, or their scores may indicate they need more support and more remedial work before they take Algebra 1. So just depends on an individual student. And that's why we count on parents to be our strongest partner and advocate for their child as well.
With a district as large as Orange County, it seems like it's always growing, which has put a demand for more teachers. Are the teachers coming out of the colleges and universities sort of ready to hit the ground on day one to give the kids the type of schooling they need?
That depends largely on where they graduate from.
Okay.
Our local colleges and universities, they're giving us very well prepared teachers. We need teachers that are exposed to digital curriculum as well as the new Florida standards. We certainly need teachers that are familiar with the best teaching strategies. We subscribe to Marzano here, the Marzano model here in Orange County. Charlotte Danielson is another model. Those teachers are coming out more and more prepared for that. I will tell you that the greatest concern is probably not being able to get enough volume. Sometimes teacher education programs are not producing enough volume for all of the needs of the school districts in the vicinity, and so we have to work creatively around those issues. That's why we
sort of bring them up to speed.
Well, no. Sometimes we have to use other avenues, alternative certification, and Teach for America and other entities to make sure we get enough teachers in our classrooms.
Speaking of which, we have about 30 seconds left. Teach for America, they're going to be at a few of your schools. So tell us about Teach for America, what that is.
Teach for America takes students who graduate from college. They usually recruit in some of our highest colleges and universities, and they agree that they're going to give 2 years of service into public education. Number one, because they believe that children of poverty can learn just as well as other children. They deserve a chance. And number two, because they believe they have something to give back to their community. And so that group of young people all over this country have had quite an impact in districts where they work. I want to be very clear, they're paid just like any other teacher. They get the same observation instrument. They have the same constraints as any other teacher would have. It's just another avenue, alternative certification, where you can bring in more teachers rather than have vacancies and substitutes in classrooms. Because when that happens, Greg, it's usually in our poorest schools where we have the remaining vacancies. And so we may get up to 50 of those teachers. They will fill vacancies where we have needs in some of our neediest schools and really have a positive impact in those settings. The alternative would be to have a substitute at the beginning of school for some of our children, and we just won't stand for that. State of Florida gave us about a $500,000 Race to the Top grant funding to support it, and then we have some of our Title I grant dollars that will help pay for them as well. But the teachers themselves make the same money. There's a support office that comes in to train them and work with them. They take them through a summer camp.
And they're bright kids to begin with, so they have a high capacity.
They're bright kids to begin with, they are. And so we're excited. It will infuse some new energy into some of our schools where we are prone to have vacancies for the start of the school year, and that's just not acceptable.
Well, Dr. Jenkins, you seem to have all bases covered. It's been great having you on our show again, and thank you for joining us for EduTV, and stay tuned for Hispanic Speak Out TV.
This show is brought to you by Boricua Beer, coming to your local retailer in September.
My name is Raquel Garzon, and I'm a Latina role model. My advice to you is to always be yourself, be authentic, and to do always what you believe is the right thing.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Cooper and I'm a Latina role model. If you want to do what I did in my life, you want a success for your life, stay focused. Don't stop believing in yourself. Write down your goals and I will see you at the top.